Welcome to Cranfield University. That's enough of that cheesy music. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy days. My name is Toby Thompson. I'm the studio director here at the glorious Granville Turner Studios. Thank you again for joining us. This is going to be an interactive session, so we are very keen to hear your questions, comments, observations, challenges, pretty much at any time in what I reckon will be an hour. We promise not to go over the hour mark. So in the UK, 1 o'clock. So at any time, if there's something you want to say, find that text chat function in Zoom. I think you know where it is, and just say something. And you could maybe start by saying, where are you in the UK? We're assuming you are in the UK. Like I say, an hour, and we're very keen to carry on the conversation. So if you're watching the recording, you missed a great session. So get yourself talking to Cranfield. You'll know by the end of this session who to talk to. And on that note, I'm going to introduce a few people here. We're going to come back to Rosina in a second, but we're joined in a studio here by Rosina, my esteemed colleague.
Morning, not morning, colleague. Afternoon.
We're also joined by some real students online. I'm going to first of all go to Christina Goodman. We're going to be talking about the apprenticeship, and Christina is our apprenticeship lead. So we'll come back to Christina very shortly. There's Robbie. Robbie, give us a quick wave. Robbie is, there he is, a current student. Anushka, bottom left, to give us a wave too, just to prove it is live. And Lucy, in a very fetching high vis, give us a wave, bottom right. Oh. So there you go. So these are real students. So if at any point you've got questions, what's it really like studying at Cranfield? What's it really like studying sustainability? Then we have a whole bunch of people that you can ask those questions to. And I've got my first question for you. So Rosina, tell us a bit more about yourself and introduce yourself if you could.
So yes, Toby, I'm the course director, co-course director of the MSc Sustainability. I work in Cranfield School of Management, and I'm head of the Sustainable Business Group there. So I just wanted to say thank you to people for coming today to hear about this course. It's something I'm really, really passionate about, and I can't wait to answer your questions.
My first question then, I guess you're interested because we're interested in you, you're interested in us, we're kind of sussing each other out here. Who is this course for?
Good first question, Toby. So this course is obviously for people who are already sustainability professionals at whatever stage that might be in their journey in their career, who want to become more well-rounded in their sustainability knowledge, who want to have a more structured, formal learning that helps them to do what is often a very difficult job in their organisations. You know, in terms of understanding the technical side of sustainability, but also being able to lead for sustainability, take other people with them on that journey inside their organisation. But it's not just for those people. It's also for people who are in different functional roles who are seeing sustainability as being an increasing part of their job. So actually, I'll show you a slide here where we have some of the job roles.
I was going to ask you, do you have to have the word sustainability in your job role?
So you don't have to have sustainability in your job role. And you can see here from this slide, on the left-hand side, there's some job roles that are based on sustainability or ESG or environment, whatever that's referred to in the organisation. But increasingly, we are seeing people joining and really benefiting from the course in other functions, whether that's procurement, IT, finance, operations, because it's becoming something they need to understand and be able to work confidently with as well in their roles.
And we're talking to Lucy later on, who's operations director, as I understand it.
Exactly.
So Lucy,
yeah.
Lucy's name is on there too, or the director.
And you know, this shows the job titles, but the students that we have on the cohorts so far are from a huge range of sectors as well. So the course is very much not sector specific. So we have people all the way from, you know, heavy engineering, manufacturing, all the way through to service companies that, you know, legal companies that don't make anything. So that it's very sector agnostic, and actually that diversity of sectors is a really core part of the learning.
So someone saying sustainability doesn't apply to me, you would say absolutely not, it does.
Absolutely not. Every organisation needs to face into it, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so on the course, I mean, this is ridiculous in a sense, but what do you actually learn? Is that too simple a question?
No, I mean, again, I've got some slides to illustrate this. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the modules that you cover, but I'll talk a bit more about the general principles. So hopefully, if you've had a look at the web page already, you'll see that this course is primarily delivered online. And the reason for that is to, number one, make it accessible to more people who might not be able to travel to Cranfield on a regular basis, and number two, to reduce the carbon footprint associated with delivering the course. The delivery is from the studio, so it's very high quality online live learning, so you're there with your tutor in real time for all that online teaching. And then to complement that, we have 3 residentials, which I'll talk about a bit more in a few slides. And it's all about applied learning, so it's about theories, frameworks, but also then what you do with them back in the organisation. So that's the spirit of the apprenticeship, but that's also the spirit of how we teach at Cranfield anyway. It's theory into practice. And very much a part of this course is what we all learn from each other. Mm-hmm. So you can see a lovely photo there of a couple of the cohorts. There's so much to learn from other people in other sectors with different experience. That's a key part of the learning. And it's also about staying close to current practice. So as well as learning from lecturers and academics, you also learn from specialists in their field within industry.
Can I just interrupt you there by saying that we have someone from Birmingham? Whoop, let's hear it for Birmingham, Bedford, sunny Yorkshire. Oh, really? Spitalfields in London, St Albans, London, South Cumbria, North Devon. Really?
Well, there you go. That just illustrates the point that, if we were asking you all to travel to Cranfield every month,
you don't need
what the carbon footprint of that would be.
But Lena is from Namibia. And there's someone from Manchester too. So thank you for letting us know where you are. It makes us feel warm and fuzzy.
So do you want me to talk a bit about modules? Yeah.
Please.
So this, I'm not, as I say, I'm not going to talk through all these modules. On the course page, you can click in every module and see what the learning outcomes of that module, what you'll learn in each of those modules. But essentially, the structure is in the first year you come and have a residential, and then there are 8 taught modules. In the second year, again, you start the year off with a residential, chance to reconnect with people in a human way, and then on to another 7 modules. And then the last 6 months of the course kicks off again with a residential, and that's very much focused then on your work-based project or your applied thesis if you're not an apprentice. So that's a 3-month piece of work, research-based work on a project of your choice with your employer. And in terms of what you take away at the end of that, this is a kind of one course with multiple outcomes. So you come away with a master's level degree in sustainability. If you're on the apprenticeship route, you also come away with a level 7, which means master's level apprenticeship. And the course is accredited by IEMA, which is the biggest industry body for sustainability practitioners. So the course is accredited by them, so you get that accreditation. And then the 2 points at the end, you do build the most fantastic network of like-minded people who will be a support and hopefully an inspiration for you outside the course and beyond the course.
It's funny you mentioned IEMA there. Sabina's just asking, what is the IEMA accreditation level?
So you automatically get practitioner level on completing the course, and then if you've got enough experience going into the course in terms of years of experience in the sustainability role, then you get the full membership. So,
Sabina, come back if you want any further information on that. Brilliant, thank you. So how does it actually work? What are the days looking like?
So each module runs over a period of 7 weeks, and hopefully this will show what the rhythm of that 7 weeks looks like. So crucially, within the 7 weeks, there are 2.5 days of live teaching. But in between those live teaching days, you do self-paced learning. So either reading and preparing for a live session, or doing work that consolidates your learning from a live session. So every other week you have live, in between self-paced learning, and also in those weeks in between you'll be starting to build the assessment that you have to do for each module. So that's how it works. So very live, interactive learning with periods in between which give you the time to absorb what you've learned, think about how that would apply to work, and actually start applying it to work for your assessment.
We're going to follow on that question too with the students that we're going to be talking to very shortly. In terms of support, people are thinking...
I've just got to talk a bit about the residentials.
Go on, please.
Yeah, because they're really exciting, because they are obviously an opportunity to meet face to face. So just to give you a flavour, the first residential is obviously a lot about induction, getting to know each other. We also play this, which is the Sustainable Futures game, which is an opportunity to really immerse yourself in the sustainability context and do that collaboratively with your cohort. The second residential is about innovation and exploring topics through an unconference that you might want to study further in your endpoint assessment. And these pictures are all of the Cranfield University Innovation Tour, because our campus itself is a site for innovation and research around sustainable technology. So we've got a hydrogen production facility on here, we've got air source heat pumps, and we've also got a very glamorous photo of the students visiting our pilot hall.
I want to wear me one of those, that looks good.
The pilot hall is a polite name for our on-campus sewage works. And then the third residential, just to complete the picture, is about getting you ready for your endpoint assessment and really equipping you with the research skills you'll need to do that piece of research.
Okay, I'm going to cut in there with a question that Sarah's got. Can you do courses in stages, e.g. year 1 postgraduate certificate, year 2 postgraduate diploma, year 3 masters?
On the apprenticeship route you can't, so on the apprenticeship route you have to keep going. If you go in on the non-apprenticeship route, you can decide to exit after a year and go away with those intermediary level qualifications, or you could decide to do a year, take a break. So there's much more flexibility on the non-apprenticeship route. On the apprenticeship route, not so much, and that's not us saying that, that's the government.
Sarah, keep coming back to us if you want more information on that, please. You can do it here. Obviously, you can carry on the conversation, but Sarah, thanks for that. Isabel's asking, can you attend residentials without a mentor?
Yes, you can. So we do invite, I think where that question probably comes from is that we do invite employers to part of the residential, so they can experience for themselves what Cranfield, what the course is like, what you're learning, but there's no requirement to do that. You don't have to bring your mentor.
So Isabel, likewise, you can follow on with more if you want. Tell us more. I just started to ask you about support there. What sort of support can the people expect from Cranfield?
So essentially, we see this course very much as a three-way relationship. So a relationship between you as the learner, your employer, your sponsor for employer. So that doesn't necessarily have to be your line manager. It could be someone who's really interested in your learning. So it could be your head of sustainability. It could be your managing director. And then also every student is assigned an apprenticeship tutor if they're on the apprenticeship. So this is a person that stays with you through the whole length of the 2.5 years. Make sure that you're filling all the requirements of the apprenticeship as well as progressing academically. And if you're not on the apprenticeship route, you're assigned a course tutor who performs the same job. So you can expect to meet with your apprenticeship or course tutor at least every 12 weeks. And then you'll have a meeting that involves your employer sponsor as well, typically every 12 to 16 weeks, so they can stay close to how you're developing, what you're learning, how you're applying that in the workplace.
It kind of come up with Sarah's question there earlier on, and maybe Christina's going to be talking about this one, but who is eligible to apply? So
eligibility is kind of double layered for an apprenticeship. So from an academic perspective, what we typically look for an applicant is a 2-1 or above in an undergrad degree. However, because this course and Cranfield are very much about practice, we really recognise that some people will have developed the skills that they need for master's level study without having done an undergrad degree. So if you've been working for 8 years and you've done extensive bits of work that involve research and writing, then you could still very well be eligible for the course. All that would happen is that you'd have to be interviewed by an academic to ascertain whether you had those skills. So that's the academic eligibility. From an apprenticeship perspective, I'll leave that to Christina to cover in a bit more detail, because it is based around whether you live in the UK and other factors like that. If you're coming in on the non-apprenticeship route, it really is that eligibility that I've already talked about from an academic perspective.
Brilliant. Perfect segue there. Christina, I think you're up next. But if you've not had a chance so far to ask a question in the Zoom text chat, please ask away any questions. No such thing as a stupid question. So please put that question in the Zoom text chat. And as you've seen already, I'll just interrupt whoever's talking. So Christina, there is a question. Let's quickly do a question. Can I quickly do a question?
And I've got a chance to talk about the deadline
okay.
as well. Yeah.
This is Lena, can I nominate an apprenticeship from my country or employer, or is this something that the course director will do on my behalf?
So say that again.
Can I nominate an apprenticeship from my country or employer, or is this something that the course director will do on my behalf?
So if the apprenticeship scheme is only available for people who are live in England, live and work in England. So it's very much a scheme for English students. You can absolutely apply for the course and participate as a non-apprentice from other countries. Yeah, anywhere in the world. If you are looking at the apprenticeship route, it is a 2-phase application. So your employer would say that they're prepared for you to come on the course, and then you apply as an individual.
Brilliant. Okay.
So hopefully that answers that question.
And Lena, just come back again if that's not clear. Another quick one from Isabel, maybe more suitable for the next part, but on the application, under qualifications, do we only need to include most recent qualifications?
Your highest level qualifications are the ones that will definitely be more important. If you're coming in on an apprenticeship route, though, it's worth knowing that you need maths and English, GCSE, O-level passes, and you have to provide evidence of that. So hunting around in your attic is often needed.
But I know Christina has got a solution for that. And there's a bunch more questions here, but I'm going to, Christina, if I can, come to you next. I think you're going to be able to answer some of these things. So Christina, let's just prove to me that you are live and that you do have some slides to share with us. Just give us a wave if you can. There you are.
Hi, Toby. Hi, Rosina.
And Christina, you recognise some of those questions, I'm sure. But talk us through your slide deck if you can, first of all. And I think that might even generate more questions. So over to you, Christina. Sure. And maybe introduce yourself first, of course.
So I'm Christina Goodman. I work in the Apprenticeships office here at Cranfield. So I support all of our employers and our applicants from that initial inquiry stage all the way until they join us on their first day of learning here at Cranfield.
Brilliant. Let's bring up your slides and let's see how this works.
So these are the really key dates that Rosina was just sharing before. So they are application deadlines. So do note those down. We have a colleague who will share them in the chat as well.
And I did see someone in the chat earlier saying, will the slides be shared afterwards? I believe the answer is yes to that. So Christina, go ahead.
Thanks, Toby. So what is an apprenticeship? It's a programme which provides you with a valuable opportunity to upskill either your own knowledge, skills or behaviours or those of your employees. It's a chance for apprentices to advance their own career but also bring their learning from the classroom into the workplace and improve those existing practices straight away. Nobody has to wait for you to finish a complete programme. You'll be really encouraged straight away to take what you've learnt and embed it into the workplace and into your team straight away. It's also, as Rosina said, it's a fantastic opportunity to network and learn from your peers as well. So here at Cranfield, it's really important to us that not only do you learn from our academic staff, but you learn from those on your cohort as well and share your experiences and your understanding of different things. Next slide, please. So what exactly is an apprenticeship and how would you benefit? So an apprenticeship is a paid job, so you wouldn't stop your work and continue learning. You do both at the same time. So you're earning your salary, your employer is supporting you by paying your salary and for your apprenticeship training as well. Apprentices are actually given ring-fenced time to spend on their apprenticeship, and that averages out at an absolute minimum of 6 hours per week. And that's outlined in the apprenticeship funding rules, so you must be given that time to study. Most of that time is spent with Cranfield, either face-to-face in person, outlined in those residential activities, or it would be live online teaching. Any remaining time would be spent learning at your own pace, so that's self-directed learning that Rosina was talking about earlier. You'd have all the support from your employer, so they're allowing you that time to learn, paying for your apprenticeship and also providing a mentor throughout the duration of your apprenticeship to help you in the workplace identify these opportunities to expand and implement your knowledge. You'd also have a recognised qualification at the end. So not only are you completing, as Rosina said, you get the apprenticeship, you get your academic qualification, and you also get a further certificate from an accredited body as well. It's absolutely an opportunity to upskill yourself whilst you're working, and I just can't emphasise how good an opportunity an apprenticeship is. Definitely if I had my time again, I would go back and do an apprenticeship rather than the traditional degree, for sure. Next slide, please. So how to apply, and I think this is one where lots of questions will be coming from. So as Rosina said, it is a two-phase application process. So first of all, we need to hear from your employer. They need to complete what's called an expression of interest, and then we will share with them the application link. So just be aware that our application links for apprenticeships are not on our website. Those are for a traditional student route. So applications are submitted, you create a profile and you tell us all about yourself. So you tell us about your highest academic qualifications that you've already obtained, about your work history, and also about yourself and why you would want to undertake this programme of study. You'll then hear from me with what's called an initial assessment, and that is to check your eligibility for apprenticeship funding. So apprentices must have lived and worked in the UK for 3 years. In the UK for 3 years prior to the start of their apprenticeship. You obviously can travel abroad, but you need to have resided in the UK for those 3 years. They need to have an eligible employer, so your employer must be on a PAYE scheme or paying you via PAYE, and you must be working a minimum of 50% of your time in England. So you can live just across the border, but you must be spending a minimum of 50% of your time in England. There are other requirements, such as you can't already have a qualification in the same area at the same level. So if you already have a master's in sustainability, we wouldn't be able to obtain that apprenticeship funding for you. However, if you've got an MBA or you've got a PhD in environmental science, for example, you would still be eligible to come and complete this level 7 apprenticeship in sustainability. As Rosina mentioned earlier, you are required to have Maths and English at level 2, so that is equivalent to a pass at GCSE or O level, depending on when you undertook those qualifications. If you don't have them, it is not a problem. We can help support you in obtaining the correct evidence, but we do ask as part of the application process that you undertake a Maths and English assessment. It is an assessment and not a test, so whatever the outcome, you would still be able to start. It's just we need to understand your current working level and how we can support you going forward on your apprenticeship. Your employer also needs to confirm their support and why they believe this is the most suitable training for you to undertake at this time and how it would relate to your current job role. So we do that as an online form so that they can complete that and return it to us as part of your application. Next slide, please. So what do we expect from you? These areas are really important. So attendance for apprentices is mandatory throughout the programme. So you must absolutely be able to attend that first day of learning, and these are requirements by the Education Skills Funding Agency, and there isn't flexibility on that first day. We do accept that things happen though, and events occur during the duration of your apprenticeship. So if you were needing to take time out when a lecture or live teaching is taking place, we'll work with you and the course team to make sure that you are able to catch up on that learning. Throughout the duration of an apprenticeship, we have what's called tripartite reviews. So these happen around every 3 months, and they're to support you. As Rosina said, it's that three-way relationship. So your apprenticeship tutor, your employer and yourself will work together at those tripartite reviews to monitor your progress, look at what you've managed to achieve and what you plan to achieve going forward over the next 3 months. As I said before, apprentices are required to attend teaching, and therefore it is called off-the-job training, and your employer must allow you to complete this. So it averages out as a minimum, the government says 6 hours per week, but at Cranfield we expect 7. It is master's level. We do expect that little bit more from you. You have to submit all your assessments on time, and I cannot stress how important this is, not to leave it to the last minute. Submission is online and it is normally at midnight, but we're not here in the office until that time. So if you experience any problems, it's always best to do it before 5 o'clock when we're here to help you. But as students, you know, we all like to leave things to the last minute. I can hear Rosina smiling there. Yeah, it's still common, isn't it? Even with our apprentices, it's still, you know, 5 to midnight. Work hard, it really does pay off. So we know that you're working full time. It's a big ask to also undertake the apprenticeship as well at the same time. But all this hard work will accumulate in those three awards or 3 certificates at the end of your programme, and this fantastic network that you have then outside of the programme. Finding ways to apply and practice what you've learned is really important, and your apprenticeship tutor and your line manager or mentor, the sponsor, as Rosina called them, I think that's the best name, in the workplace will really support you in being able to do this, and this helps you build that portfolio of evidence required by your apprenticeship. And as always, we are always here to help everyone, so whether that's the apprentice themselves, the employer, line manager, the apprenticeships team at Cranfield are always here to help all of you, because we want you to have the best and most positive experience with us, and most importantly, we want that apprentice to be successful.
Great.
Oh gosh, sorry, I was enwrapped by the questions that are on the screen here, and I think for your benefit, and it's just the case, there are two Rosinas here. We have Rosina Borelli, who's answering some of these questions, and some of you have seen Rosina Borelli. So Rosina, thank you very much indeed. Keep asking those questions. Got another Rosina here. You get none, and then you get two at once.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you know some of the questions. Susan was asking, is there disabled access for the residentials? And Rosina's already replied, yes, there is. So we're keen to have more on that conversation. Sabina and I think it's Colin been talking about eligibility. Sabina's saying 6 years of experience in the role. Is a course still suitable? Yes.
I just recommend people get hold of me and we'll have a one-on-one conversation. If you've got any worries about eligibility, just get in touch with me directly.
Take up that offer.
Yeah.
That's serious. And Colin was saying, yeah, likewise, 8 years of experience in the field and looking at the course to formalise knowledge
Absolutely.
at an MSc level. So Colin,
yeah.
right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Chloe's asking, why doesn't the apprenticeship levy cover the full cost of the 18,000?
So the course basically costs £18,000 for us to run at the high quality that we expect of ourselves. And unfortunately, the funding band for this apprenticeship was set much lower than for a lot of level 7 apprenticeships. We don't know why. So effectively, it's the difference between the viable cost of the course and the levy funding band.
Okay,
Simple
brilliant.
as that.
Chloe, thanks for the question. James is asking, what days are we talking about? We're talking Fridays.
Fridays.
Fridays, really. Fridays will mean something new to you, James, hopefully, when we see you. And I think Rosina's also responded in terms of residential weeks. Usually the first week in March.
For a March intake.
4 days, yeah. And the third week in September, second cohort. So that, and there's a bunch more questions coming in. I'm going to come to some of these questions in a second, but I want to go to the students because this might prompt even more questions. And this is, I keep saying, this is my most favourite part of my job, is talking to students who are on the course. And the students that you see...
And I never know what they're going to say.
This is unscripted. So we're going to, I think, first of all, go to Robert. So Robert, you're on the left-hand side there. So Robert, can I come to you first? You are a sustainability apprentice, as I understand this, in the Bechtel Corporation. Have I got that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yep, brilliant. And apprenticeship route, and you've been on the course for a year now. You're in cohort 2. How does that whole Bechtel apprenticeship thing work for you?
Yeah, it was interesting, I suppose. So I was working for a think tank. I did my MEng in mechanical engineering, and I wanted to study and work at the same time. So this was a route through which to do that. I think it was quite lucky that I found this course through Bechtel, that it was at my level, and then was just kind of seeking the additional funding to top up the levy. That was the process of it happening, I think.
So tell us more about your experience then, Robert, on the course. What's it like? How does it work being virtual? Is it death by PowerPoint? Tell us more about the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely convenient being virtual rather than having to make it to Cranfield. It would be a trek from London to get every Friday. But yeah, I think a whole day full of lectures is a bit of a challenge. I think by the end of the day, a bit worn out. But there are breaks given and kind of recommended to go and have a cup of tea and stand away from the desk for a period of time. The only tricky thing is using the work laptop. I'd say using a personal laptop, it's much easier signing into the Teams and the Outlook and things like that.
That's an important point because that usually comes up at some point during the day. Anushka, can I come to you next if I could? And Robbie, I'm going to come back to you as well. But Anushka's joining us from cohort 1. I've known Anushka now for 18 months from an apprenticeship route. And I got this right, Anushka, a sustainability manager, ABF UK Grocery Group. Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us more about your role.
So we have 8 different businesses within our division, and they produce lots of household goods that you guys would recognise. So things like Kingsmill bread, Patak's, Blue Dragon. We make all the noodles you get yourself a Chinese takeaway, we're making them, rice and retailers, you name it. So yeah, there's lots of businesses, they've all got slightly different sustainability targets, and my role was to really help them to kind of transition on their journeys to reach those targets, and also engage with our PLC at ABF to make sure that we're meeting their expectations of us. But the way ABF works is it's quite a devolved business, so we're all doing our own different things. So we're working on a whole range of different aspects, from social sustainability to environmental sustainability. So my role covers quite a lot of areas.
And I've got to say, I sat with Anushka for one of the dinners in one of the residentials, and learned a tremendous about rice. I didn't know half of the things, so Anushka knows about rice. Anushka, tell us why did you choose Cranfield in particular?
So I'd actually studied sustainability as my undergraduate degree at the University of Leeds, but I wanted to do something else, as I saw sustainability was really kind of ramping up in terms of what it was looking like for industry. And I wanted to make sure I was not repeating what I had done at an undergraduate level, and I wanted something that was practical and engaging that I could bring back to my job that I'm doing. So this was really the perfect answer to meet that expectation.
Brilliant. Anushka, stick around because there's a ton more questions, but I'm going to go, if I can, to Lucy. Lucy's slightly different there. Lucy is joining us, loving that high vis there, Lucy. You're joining us from Idverdi, and you're in cohort 3, and you've gone for the non-apprenticeship route. Tell us what motivated you to return to study.
Yeah, I guess I got to a point in my career where I wanted to progress. So I was sort of increasing my exposure to the senior leadership team, and I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously and almost being given the brush off. And when I went away and really gave it some thought and was really honest with myself, I felt that maybe I had a genuine skills gap in that sort of technical ability, but also maybe how I was communicating, both orally and in writing. And I guess the only solution to that I could see was to go back to adult education, which absolutely filled me with horror. When I left school, I went and did a vocational apprenticeship. And the thought of university was just too terrifying, particularly that social element of it. I thought, God, this is never going to be for me. But I guess I got to the point of that stress I was feeling, of the perception of underperforming, was greater in the end than my anxiety of, studying academically. That, basically that took me straight into an MBA, and the MBA took me directly into this MSc.
Wow.
And yeah, here I am.
So Lucy, people on the call may be in a similar position to you and not having been back in education for quite a while. What tips would you give? What advice would you give for people thinking how scary it is?
Yeah, I mean, it is scary. I guess the difference with Cranfield is it feels like a very different organisation to be studying with, and very open, very supportive. And I don't know if that's Rosina and her team and their personality, or whether it's the experience that Cranfield has, because postgraduate education is what they do, or whether it's that expert knowledge in each discipline. But when you put that all together, it's actually a very comfortable place and I say that from someone that actually has felt a lot of anxiety about studying academically. So all the pieces are there, and you absolutely just have to commit to it and surrender to it and get it done.
I tell you, Lucy, we got some massive smiles in the studio when you said that. In terms of being an non-apprenticeship student, is there any different? Does it feel different? Is there an advantage, disadvantage?
For me, it's better. The MBA was via the apprenticeship levy. I was lucky enough that my employer would sponsor me for this one, and it means less work, which is great. So you don't have to do all the key skills and behaviour stuff that the government require you to do, and evidence. So I found it just enables me to focus solely on the assignments. And from a social perspective, you don't know in your cohort, it's not like, oh, non-apprentices here, oh, apprentices there. It doesn't even come into it, so it's fine.
Lucy, that's brilliant. Do you want to add to that? Because there are, I mean, Sarah had earlier on the kind of question around apprentice, non-apprentice. What advice might you give, Rosina?
Well, I think Lucy sort of summed it up really well in that it takes away a layer of evidence that you have to produce if you are an apprentice. And I guess it comes down to the funding, really, doesn't it? Lucy was lucky enough, her company were happy to sponsor it directly. So Lucy's company is still paying, but not through the apprenticeship levy. So in the end, sometimes it does come down to that, that pure hard decision about how you can access the funding. But we try and keep the student experience, and I'm glad Lucy said that. The student experience is no different other than this additional layer of reporting you have to do as an apprentice, and the endpoint assessment is very, very similar as well. It's just slightly different in terms of how it's assessed, so you won't feel any different from other students.
Brilliant. Keep those questions coming. Robbie, can I come to you next if I could, please? And we've kind of touched upon this, but this 20%. Robbie, the apprenticeship standard recommends study time for this course is around about 20%, roughly a day a week, strangely a Friday. Is this a good estimate of the time, or is this hopelessly undercooked?
I think potentially on average, given the lectures 1 week on, 1 week off, and the assessment periods with reports, that might be. But I definitely find myself nearing the deadline for an assessment, spending a bit of time over the weekends. I find easier than finding other times during the week. I've blocked off all of my Fridays on Teams for the next 3 years, I think. So I have that 20% logged in, but I do find myself using the library on the weekends around the times of deadlines. So.
And can I be really sneaky and a bit curious, Robbie? Tell us about your Fridays, because Charlotte, you're asking about, when is it 9 to 5 or 9 to 5:30? I think it's fair to say. Robbie, how do you find that? You get your coffee ready just before 9, and you've got something planned for the evening after 5:30. Tell us about your Fridays.
Well, it depends. So sometimes it's Friday, coffee in the morning, and then kind of piece of toast for lunch and that kind of thing to focus on the laptop. But then usually sort of preparing materials for the library over the weekend. I prefer to do that than work in the evenings personally, but I suppose that would be personal preference.
And Robbie, in terms of Bechtel, how do you ensure that you get the support from your organisation?
Yeah, that's true. I think I've been quite lucky in that my supervisor and manager have been quite supportive and both engaged with the tripartite reviews, and we meet also routinely between them to talk about sort of alignment with the course and other aspects as they come up through the course. But communication with them, I think, is quite important as much as possible.
And are there any tips for employers? Maybe the employers are on this call today. Any tips that you'd recommend?
So ensuring you're engaging with the tripartite reviews, I think, is really important. Planning for them. So something that I found really useful is planning the work that I do at Bechtel with the course material. I think it gets the most out of the course at the time. So it could be quite different, but when it's aligned, or if it can be used as the course comes up, that's quite important, I think, for an employer to be thinking about.
Robbie, thank you. Stick around. Ton of questions coming in. Anushka, if I can go to you next, please. And we laughed just before we came on air, but we laughed about this next question. How, Anushka, would you describe your cohort? I'm trying to keep a straight face.
Super vibrant, engaging. Everyone's there to really learn and have a really good time with each other. It is a long day, but everyone is super interactive. And we were saying before, someone may suggest something or bring up a comment and we can go slightly off course, but that's the value of everybody kind of putting everything in. Sometimes you can discuss quite sensitive topics within sustainability, but everyone feels really open and willing to share their ideas. So it's a really great cohort to be a part of, and I'm sure that others are similar as well, but I know ours, we do like to talk. So.
You do like to talk, but that could be, Anushka, intimidating for some people. Let's say you're an introvert, and what you've just described there is quite a stretch. What advice would you give people worried about that?
I think that another really good thing about the course is that you're in different groups. So you're in a sector group, and then you're in an action learning set group where you've got different people from different sectors. So that gives you a chance to interact in a smaller group, and there's lots of breakout sessions during the lecture days. Being at the residential is great because you learn to speak to people. And equally, if you're feeling like you want a quiet day, you can just sit there and listen or write something on the Zoom chat. You don't have to always turn your mic off, but it definitely adds value to your day, I think, if you engage throughout.
And it's worth saying, I'll say this, it's worth having your camera on too, because it does improve engagement. Sabina's asking, is it then each Friday spent in lectures every week? Every alternate Friday?
Every other Friday.
Every other Friday, Sabina. So not every Friday, every other Friday. Anushka, one last question, or not, a couple more questions, but next one. In terms of impact of your learning on you and your organisation, how would you describe that?
I think really great. There's assignments that I've written actually from Rosina's module about looking at how can we make our noodles more sustainable using leftover spent grain from a brewing process. And we have an agricultural business as part of our entity. And as a result of me writing that assignment, we've now started a project to work out how could we kind of create these noodles which will help us to reduce our waste and their waste as well. So I think it's helped me think of things that I'm doing in my day-to-day job in a slightly different way than I would have done if I didn't have the course content. And I think my peers on the group as well, having their perspective from the same sector and different sectors has really just added a different spin to how I do my job and how I think about sustainability. So I definitely, the course is invaluable. There's so much to learn from the lectures and outside the lectures too.
Brilliant. I'm going to come to Lucy next, but for you hearing that, Rosina, that's quite something, isn't it? You hearing that.
Yeah. Pardon
the pun, Anushka, but that's kind of hand to mouth. But yeah. Lucy, if I can come to you next, because I want to follow on from what Anushka was saying there. So Lucy, how do you do your practical assignments if you're not a pure sustainability role? You're operations director. How do you go about it if you don't work in a big company?
Yeah, so I do work for a big company, but yeah, just purely operational role. And I've always worked in operations. And at the moment for us, sustainability doesn't really touch operations, although I'm sure it will change. But for my assignments, I write them from a really strong commercial perspective. So commercial organisation owned by private equity. If I don't have what I'm writing in reality, it doesn't really make much sense. So an example is for the carbon dioxide assignment. So we had to do an assignment on calculating carbon dioxide with a view of reducing it. I started with talking about the fuel price and how we could save fuel. And then I paired that with the carbon dioxide savings. So I'm basically saying if we use route optimizing software to geographically arrange our operational rounds, we can save £1 million on fuel and 4,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions. And that's a really strong argument that I can put in front of an MD. And what I'll say is 2 out of the first 3 assignments I wrote, one I've created a customer value proposition that we're working on internally now. And the second one was that fuel saving that will drop straight to the bottom line and completely is something we can do.
So it sounds like, Lucy, that it's had an immediate impact, not only on what you do, how you do it, and you're standing in the organisation by the sound of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, next one. Lucy, how has the course helped you then in your role and career? You kind of talked about that, but can you give examples?
Yeah, so I'm responsible for a lot of high-profile horticultural contracts, which includes the Royal Parks, St James's Park, Houses of Parliament. So the King's coronation, we had a lot of operational responsibility around delivering that event. And we got a call from Department of Culture, Media and Sport saying the King wants to make it a sustainable event. Here's your criteria you need to achieve. Something, we're not going to tell you what, but something around this. And that, so the coronation was in May and I started the Cranfield course, must have been the end of Feb. And just those 3 months had given me, probably most important, the confidence, but also kind of minimal technical ability to be able to head up not only the operational project team, but a sustainability project team that I ran alongside, and I had members on each side. And I think it was really the first time for me that I was able to actually seamlessly integrate environmental responsibility into our operational roles. And you can picture our operational managers, you say the word sustainability, you get eye rolling. And actually, this was the first time we were all on board, single focus, and actually the sustainability part became the main focus. And that happened quite naturally. Absolutely everyone learned something doing that. And ultimately, it saved us money. I can put a monetary value on the saving that sustainability agenda brought us for that event, and that was £3,000 to £4,000.
Lucy, that's an amazing story to hear, and you got a comment on that?
I just wanted to know, was the king happy?
Absolutely.
There you go.
We like the sound of that. Can I come back to Robbie? I got another question for you. And Robbie, the question is really around what else is involved in an apprenticeship over and above just the master's level study?
Right. Yeah. So a difference between kind of doing a master's and the apprenticeship. So the OTJ, off the job hours logging is quite different. There's a platform called PebblePad that gets logged through. So you go through and log exactly what have you learned each day. And I believe that's a requirement for the levy funding from the government. There's also a slight difference in the assessment. The portfolio of evidence that you need to provide, that evidences the key skills and behaviours required by the apprenticeship, and along with that portfolio of evidence is an interview where you talk through the skills to ensure that you have learned them. And that's the difference, I think, those two.
Okay, so it's worth bearing that in mind. There's possibly a bit of confusion online here. Sabina's saying, so each module is 7 weeks?
Yes.
There's a break in between?
No.
Sorry, Sabina, there's no break in between.
There are breaks. So there's a 4-week break over summer, 2 weeks for Christmas, 2 weeks for Easter. But outside of that, as one module ends, the next module begins. Brilliant. So it is a sort of regular and often mode of learning.
Okay.
But I know that's difficult. That is a difficult aspect of the course, is that there isn't that many gaps where you can take a holiday, proper holiday. But the flip side of that is you do know the day before you start, you know what the dates of the teaching are for the next 2.5 years, as Robbie said. So at least you have those dates to plan around.
So Anushka, you found that okay, or has that been tricky for you, planning?
No, I think it's worked well. Like Rosina said, you get the dates in advance, and everyone at work knows I'm not about on Fridays. So, and I think you have to be strict with that, because I think if you start to do small things on a Friday, perhaps when you don't have a lecture, then it's not ingrained in everyone else's minds that you're not around on a Friday. So like Robbie said, just block out your Fridays. So when you don't have a lecture day, you're either working on the assignment, you're doing group work, or you can do some apprenticeship work. Just tell everyone you'll be back on Monday.
Yeah, don't sneak that little email in, because Anushka said I can't contact her, but then she's responding to her email. So yeah, don't do that. And that whole thing with breaks during the sessions are also very carefully patrolled. Isabel's got a question here. Is attendance included as a requirement of the award of the credit? Attendance. People have got to attend, right?
So attendance for an apprenticeship is compulsory. Attendance for a non-apprentice is compulsory too. So if you're in a classroom at Cranfield doing a master's level course, you'd have to sign in through a QR code. We don't get you to sign in through a QR code on our teaching here, because we can see on the Zoom logs who's been there and who's not been. So yeah, essentially attendance is compulsory. And because if you're looking for a course where you can access all the learning at your own pace, because you don't think you can actually turn up to those live days, to be honest, this isn't the course for you, because committing to those live teaching days is such an essential part of the learning experience. So I'd be sort of quite cut and dried about that. It is a live teaching environment, even though it's remote.
So Isabel, come back if you've got any follow-on questions from that. Anushka, another question for you, and this is kind of ABF related, your employer, but what advice would you give to employers thinking of sending people on a course like this?
I think being part of the journey and understanding what the person who's doing the course is going through, if they're an apprenticeship, sitting down and looking at the knowledge, skills and behaviours, and my boss, he makes sure that if I think that there's any gaps, what can he do to help me make sure I can bridge that gap? So it's actually also an opportunity for the employer to help grow the student. And I think it's just being active, being present in the tripartite meetings is really important. And again, like I just said, giving the time to have your Fridays is really important.
Anushka, thank you. Lucy, last one for you. It's a tricky one. What advice would you give for people thinking of applying? Apply.
Listen, yeah, don't wait for the right time. If you're waiting for the right time, you'll be waiting forever. You absolutely have to make it the right time now. Miss the opportunity, and what you'll learn on this course is not just a technical ability, not just a leadership for sustainability, but there'll be a personal development and a confidence that you'll take with you, not just in work but outside of work as well. And that's something that I've really valued and continue to value.
Lucy, that's an inspiration to hear, so thank you for sharing that with us. Karina's got a question here. What commitment is needed again from a mentor or from your employer? I'm looking at you.
Don't mind if it's me or one of the... So as an apprenticeship employer, the primary formal commitment is that you attend those tripartite meetings that happen every 12 to 16 weeks. But ideally, if you want to attend that meeting fully informed, being able to identify the successes that your learners shared, where there might be gaps, as Anushka said, ideally you would be wanting to meet and talk about that more regularly with your apprenticeship candidate. But the absolute bare minimum is those tripartite agreements. And I think what we found is, as I said before, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be your line manager, because say your line manager is in a role that doesn't relate as closely to what you're studying, you might be able to find someone else within the organisation who is more aligned to what you're studying, who would be a better place to be a sponsor. So that's definitely work. Obviously your line manager also has to be involved, because they have to recognise that you aren't doing the work on the Friday, but you might have someone else who's more of a sort of subject mentor.
A question from Isabel, which Rosina Borelli has answered partially at least. Do applications need to be started by the deadline, expression of interest sent, or completed by the deadline?
So there's two things. So the expression of interest is the thing that the employer has to do first, and the deadline for that is by the 11th of December. And then the second deadline is then for your individual application that follows is the 9th of January. But what I really want to say on this is this course is very popular. We have got a high level of interest this year, and it's much better for you if you can get this sorted in advance. It'd be great if you could have an offer in your hand and know that you're starting before Christmas, going into the Christmas break. So if this is something that you really want to do, I would recommend not leaving it to the last minute, as we were talking about before. Don't leave those deadlines to the last minute. Have the discussions that you need to have internally, whether you're on the apprenticeship route or you're going on the non-apprenticeship route, but you want your employer to support you on this, and start the process as soon as possible.
You can see those deadlines up on the screen there, so that's a really important advice. Andrew's asking a question which I'm surprised no one else has asked. Andrew's assuming apprenticeships and non-apprenticeships are taught together in the same stuff, with the same stuff.
Yes.
There's no segregation there.
No segregation. Same teaching experience, totally, no different.
And the day of the week, we've got that already from James. It was Fridays, and that conversation carries on. I'm just going through my... Can we share a recording? Yes, we can, Andrew. Don't worry about that. Jackie's asking, please can we share the contact details to get in touch? So that'll be...
so for everyone who's registered to come on this webinar, whether they manage to make it live or not, we will send a follow-up email which will have the contact details for the apprenticeship team and the contact details for myself and the course team. So you've got those to follow up.
This is one possibly for you, possibly for Christina. Karina's asking, how can I apply for the bursary under the apprenticeship route?
So applications for, so there's bursaries available. There's a Changemaker bursary, which is for someone that's already demonstrated they've had a big impact on sustainability in their organisation and will have continued impact. And there's also a Championing Diversity bursary for people who've really been working towards achieving better diversity either in their workplace, their community. If you want to apply for either of those bursaries, which are up to £3,500, you need to include in your individual application a statement that you want to apply for the bursary and crucially why, because obviously we'll be assessing those on merit. But it's worth knowing with the bursaries, we don't make any decisions about bursaries until we've seen all the applications because we want to obviously pick the most outstanding ones. So you won't know until nearer the time whether you've been successful with that bursary application.
And Christina, I'm just assuming contacting your team, this is Karina again, apprenticeships@cranfield.ac.uk, is that right, Christina?
That's right, Toby, yes.
Brilliant. So apprenticeships@cranfield.ac.uk is how you contact. Sabina's got another question around how long are the assignments? Straight into there about the assignments. Do you mean word count? Rosina, thank you for the qualification. What are we looking at in terms of the assignment?
So they're not all written. So there's a variety of types of assignment. I didn't talk about assessment, so this is great. So the forms of written assessment vary, but they're between 1,500 and 3,000 words. But it might be, for my module, as the guys suggested, it's an innovation proposal written in the language that you'd be making a proposal to your board or your exec committee. Another written assessment is a risk assessment document. Others are more database. So your life cycle assessment, for example, you would upload the spreadsheet that you did the calculation and a reflection on that. That one assessment is a podcast. So you create a piece of video or audio content. So they vary. Some of them are group-based tasks based on a presentation, but yes, nothing long, in terms of written, nothing longer than 2,500, 3,000 words.
Isabel's breathing a sigh of relief there.
No exam, no exam.
No exam, whee! Isabel's asking other group assignments, there definitely are. And just from a point of view of seeing the output from those assignments, it's darn good fun. Anushka, can I come to you in terms of those group assignments? What's the process like? How fun is that, getting you all together?
Yeah, it is really fun. Sometimes
logistics.
You've got to find the right time to get everyone together. But once you have, we've done presentations. Like Rosina just said, the podcast was hilarious. And it's quite fun presenting it back to everyone in the group because everyone's super supportive of each other. So especially in my cohort, everyone likes to comment on what you've done. So yeah, I think they're a really good part of the learning, and it's a nice break to know that not every single assignment you're writing is an essay, and it allows you to learn how other people do assignments as well. So you can split the work out, share the load. I think it's a really good way of learning.
Brilliant, Anushka, thank you. And Rosina Borelli is saying in the chat, there's plenty of tools that we use to bring the group together. So I think, Anushka, is it fair to say that you have a WhatsApp group in your own cohort, something that you organise or the group organised?
Yeah, someone in the group organised it. I think when the first day we went to the residential, so we have a WhatsApp, so that's going crazy during the lectures. We've got the Zoom chat going off, and then we've got group chats for your specific groups as well. So, and everyone always posts things, and there's the LinkedIn group that's got all the cohorts in as well, which is really great. So there's loads of ways to connect.
And you stir that LinkedIn pot, don't you? You add stuff to that?
Yeah, so the point of the closed LinkedIn group is to create bridges between the cohorts, because that's what we really want to be able to create. And it's worth saying, I didn't say earlier, that the residentials happen at the same time for the different year groups. So in March, we'll have 3 different year groups on campus at the same time. So there'll be, yeah, hopefully about 140 people.
One from Thomas, how long is the application process once submitted? How long does it take to get a thumbs up?
So the apprenticeship application is a bit longer because there's different, that you're being assessed from 2 perspectives, apprenticeship eligibility and academic eligibility, so that can take a couple of months. And non-apprenticeship's probably about a month, but it depends on how much how busy our admissions office is at the time. But that sort of period, so that's reiterating my point of don't leave it to the last minute. If you want to have an offer in your hands before Christmas, then try and get your application in towards the end of October.
That's a finger wag there. Don't leave it.
Don't leave it.
One last question from Isabel. Do students ever meet up to work together on a group assignment?
That's a good question.
Lucy, do you ever meet up physically outside of the lectures?
So we've got to hand in our first group assignment, which is the economics one, tomorrow, and we haven't met up for that, and everyone's kind of spread out everywhere, but people in London have met up with other people in the cohort in London, so there is that social element if that's what you want.
Brilliant. Lucy, thank you very much. We could carry on these questions for hours, but sadly we have run out of time. I can't believe that hour's gone so quickly. Last comments, last pieces of advice? Deadlines.
I think what Lucy said was really great. I was thinking about when she said don't wait for there to be a good time. It's a bit like having a baby. There's never a good time to have a baby and fit that all in. But just to counteract that, make sure it is the right time for you in terms of the stage you are in your life, what else you've got going on, because clearly it is an extra commitment to take on over and above your work. So if you've got, someone, you're caring for someone who's not very well in your family, it just might not be the time to take on that extra responsibility. But if that's not the situation, then go for it. I think we all benefit from lifelong learning. I came back to study at age 40, having not done any studying for 20 years to do a PhD. It gives you a new lease of life. It makes you feel younger. It makes you feel energized. And I'm going to say, I'd say over half the people, maybe more now in the first cohort, have been promoted already within 18 months of starting the course. So, I wouldn't want that to be your driver, but that is another additional benefit of continuing to develop yourself in this way.
Brilliant. We are 1 minute over, and I promised to finish on time, so apologies for that. So thank you very much for that. Take that advice to heart if you can. Anushka, Robbie and Lucy, thank you very much indeed for taking time out of your busy days. See you online on the Friday. Christina, thank you very much indeed for that details. Contact Christina if you want more information. The studio managers today were Marco Gomez and Robert Hackett. The producers were Sophie Smiley and David Metcalf. My name is Toby Thompson. Thank you for watching.